Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Black Digital Media TV. As you know, I'm Laron Barber, and today we have still my wonderful co-host Gina. How you doing today, Gina?
I'm well, thanks, Laron.
And good. Glad to see our guest speaker smiling today, Mr. Shawn Belton. How you doing today, Shawn?
I'm doing great. I'm
Well,
grateful
good.
for today.
Well, good,
How are
good.
you guys?
Glad to have you, brother. Glad to have you back.
Thank you.
So hopefully the second time that we speak with you, Shawn, is going to be just as receptive as the first time. I think we got a lot of good response. It was interesting reading some of the comments from our last show that we did with you. So definitely you're the practitioner. Shawn is actually he's an art therapist, life coach. He's an anger management specialist and a shamanic life coach and a practitioner. So Shawn is definitely the expert in those areas, and that's why he's here today. So we're excited to have you back, Shawn. Let's get right into the show. I'm going to turn it over to Gina. She'll finish introducing you, Shawn, and we'll get started. Okay, Gina?
All right.
Yes, and I'm going through to make sure that this is live and public on Facebook because this is a discussion you don't want to miss. So I'm just going through and it's good. All right, so Shawn was back. He was here with us a few weeks back. If you missed that discussion, what I'm going to do is post the link below this particular live stream so that you can go back and watch that and then watch this as well at the end. But the last discussion that we had was very, very enlightening. A lot of people were receptive of the message and felt that, it was a discussion that needed to be had. I'm hearing myself, so I think, guys, just double check to make sure that you're not having an echo there.
Mm-hmm.
So today is going to be just as interesting, if not even more interesting, because we're going to be talking about a few topics that you may or may not have heard about. Some of the items we'll talk about, you probably recognize them as being, what do you call it? What's the right word? Hallucinogenics, I think is what the term that comes from.
I think the better term would be indigenous entheogens.
That's why you're on the show. So
I'm here on behalf of the people that are doing everything that they can to change the language, because there's a lot of misuse of words and misinterpretations and misunderstandings of what we're about to talk about.
Okay, so we're going to have quite a few different things that we'll discuss today, but I want everyone to keep this in mind. Creativity as a vehicle for transformation. Okay, creativity as a vehicle for transformation. Now, the last time we spoke with Shawn. We talked a lot about art therapy, and there's probably going to be a little bit of that thrown in today as well. But for the most part, we'll talk about a lot of sound therapy and vibration and movement, as well as a few sacred plants. And we'll bring that up. But Shawn, welcome back again. It's good to have you back because we had such a really good reception of the first time that you were here. And I know that this is probably not going to be the last time that you're here either, because from what I understand, you're getting training in a particular field. We won't mention it right now, so we'll surprise the audience when we do bring you back. But I think that's another topic that really needs to be discussed. Okay. For today, let's go ahead and just jump right into the topic. And I'm going to start off with ayahuasca. Let's talk about ayahuasca. For those people out there who have no idea what ayahuasca is, how would you explain it to somebody who's never heard about ayahuasca?
And I'm gonna try to put it in a very simplified way so that people don't really get confused. But will explain in a way to encourage them to do their own research. Ask questions in the comments. Look for groups. If you're on Clubhouse, there's a ton of Clubhouse groups that are talking about plant medicines, maybe Facebook groups as well. But the best way that I can put what ayahuasca is, it is a plant medicine. It is a medicine that most people may associate with Brazil. You know, a lot of the Amazon tribes for centuries have worked with this medicine to you know, deal with people who have certain sicknesses. And when I say sicknesses, you know, we would say they are mental health issues, or we would say that they're depression. We would say that they're anxiety. You know, we would say even certain inner health ailments or whatever like that. But this is a plant that is found in the Amazon. It's a leaf, which is called a chacruna, and as well a vine called a Banis. I'm trying not to butcher the word, but Banis terapeusis. This is the vine of the tree that the ayahuasca leaf comes from. And so they take both of these parts of the tree and they put them in a pot of water, Florida water, along with some tobacco leaf, and they, you know, boil it for hours, you know, break it down to it's almost like a bitter. Like if any of you grew up in the Caribbean, you probably had some sort of bitter with alcohol, something like that. But this bitter is a spiritual bitter. You know, this is a medicine that sort of does a spiritual detox on you. And when I say spiritual detox, I don't mean where you're singing hallelujah or anything like that. We're talking about generational trauma, things that you are aware of, things that you are totally oblivious to of what it is that you have inside of you that either you experienced as a child or what your ancestors experienced before you. Mm-hmm. It's an out of body experience that you have, but you're conscious the whole time that you're going through this journey of 6 hours. The journey is about a 6-hour journey. So, you know, you are conscious, like you can go to the bathroom, you can, you know, drink some water, you can sit there and you know, be cognizant of what's going on around you. Some people tend to have different experiences on this medicine. Some people tend to, like myself, I have a lot of visions on the medicine. You know, not to say that I don't have other experiences, but I tend to have mostly visions during my trips. I notice in some experiences, women more so having more mental and emotional journeys, you know, as well as they may have some visual things come up, but mostly for them, I've noticed and talked with some of them, and they've said that most of their experiences have been emotionally releasing and mentally challenging at times, or you know, say if they're in their head a lot, because this medicine forces you to surrender. It forces you to awaken. It forces you to shed. You know, a lot of times we as people, we want to control everything in our lives, and that isn't always the case. Even though we create our lives, we are not always in control, or at least we need to learn to be submissive or let go in certain circumstances, especially when it comes to confronting our traumas and really taking our healing journey seriously.
I've spoken to several people who have actually done an ayahuasca ceremony, and one of them had gone into therapy, had been in therapy for years, you know, one counselor after another, trying to figure out why, quote unquote, their life was so messed up, or why they were having all of these issues. And they did one ayahuasca ceremony, and basically in that weekend was able to see where their issues lay, or, you know, all of the ancestral trauma that they've been carrying around, and within one weekend had more therapy than all of the years of going to see a psychotherapist or a psychologist. So, you know, but this person did say that when you go to do an ayahuasca ceremony, you have to, like you said, you have to surrender to being to being given the responses to the questions that you're looking for. So when you go into, that's what I'm understanding. When you go into the ceremony, you ask a question that you want to be an answer to be revealed, but you also need to be receptive of the answer that you're going to get, because there's so much that's going to come up for you.
Right. And there's no right or wrong in the choices that you make, once you see those things or experience those things. Those choices are pretty much up to you. It's, if you choose to surrender, this is the direction in which your life may go. If you choose not to, then this is what, the direction of your life may go. But it's also that within the medicine, like if you're going to fight, try to control the whole experience, the medicine is going to fight with you. I kind of like, I kind of call or look at ayahuasca as our grandmother. When you were growing up, your grandmother, she was loving, but there was sometimes where she had to G check you, for doing something that you didn't have no business doing, or she was trying to get you to learn something or understand something, and you fight with her. And so she's going to give you that tough love. My grandmother, if you did something that was out of line, or, she'd grab you by your shirt, but then right after that, she would take your hand, take you to the kitchen or take you to the store, get you your little snack or whatever, kiss you on the head, just give you that love. And that's what the medicine does. The medicine treats you the same way, but you got to give respect to the medicine. You have to give reverence for the medicine, and just be open to discovery about the journey that you're going on. Don't try to fight and control and a la carte your way through your journey. Like, it doesn't work that way.
Now let me ask you this. Let me ask you this question, Shawn, while you're there. So when you talk about the plant, the ayahuasca plant, right? So and then you say you put this in this part of this is part of the spiritual bath that you speak of, right?
I didn't say spiritual bath. I said spiritual detox. This is a medicine. This is a medicine that you drink.
Okay, a medicine that you drink. Okay,
right.
So then you said that's something that's been used for many years back.
For many centuries, a lot of indigenous cultures, in particular, we're talking about Brazil. They have used this medicine, to help with different, sicknesses within people, and then to also get information as well.
Okay.
This medicine is not as old as it's not as ancient as say mushrooms, but it does have a certain type of ancient technology to it when you're going through the experiences that you go through on it.
Okay.
So it's like you're getting all kind of information. You're getting, like Gina was saying earlier, it'll show you things that you might have you need an answer to something or a question about something or an intention that you set, and then it's going to show you or put you in a situation on a medicine to show you this is the work that you need to do going forward after you come down off of this medicine, because there's always work to do once you come out of these journeys. It's not just, oh yeah, I'm healed and then I can just go on about my day. No, like you got stuff to do. There's stuff that is showing you that you need to work on within yourself. It's relationships that you got to work on. It's a lot of different things based on your genetic code. Like, like I can't speak for anybody else's experience but my own, but that's just what it is.
So from a technical perspective, then once you take the medicine, when you take it in, right? So if I go to the doctor, they says, hey, I got a toothache, they're going to inject me with some medicine, numb me up, whatever. So once I take the ayahuasca plant, then how long does it take for someone that is new to this and just listening? What's the ceremonial? How long is that ceremony, typically speaking, Shawn? And how long does it take before the medicine begin to kind of put you in a mental state to kind of begin to pull these things out? And how long do you stay? Is that determined by how much of this stuff that the medicine that you take?
So from my experience,
before you answer that, I want to make sure that those people, everyone who's watching, if you've never heard of ayahuasca, I do encourage you to do your research. Now, we're not advocating this as a, okay, you know, if you discover you have an issue, you go and you do an ayahuasca ceremony. Ayahuasca is not something that you jump into blindly. You need to do the research, and you need to prepare. It's something you prepare for. You don't just wake up one weekend and say, okay, I'm going to go and do an ayahuasca ceremony. It doesn't work that way. Okay, this is something that you lead up to, because ayahuasca is what's considered to be a master healer, and it's a master teacher. So it's like Shawn was saying, this is one of those things like the grandmother where she's gonna kick your butt, she's gonna love you afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a major decision when you decide to do ayahuasca. It's a major decision, and it's something
she's gonna kick your butt if you fight with her.
Okay, you lead up to this. So I don't want anyone to be there thinking, oh, let me look this up and then go and jump. And number one, some of the things that we are discussing are not necessarily legal in the continental US. These are plant medicines that have been used by indigenous cultures throughout the world, and have been, you know, I know several people who have gone through them, and I've learned a lot from just listening to what they have to say. But the one thing that I have taken away is that this is not something that you just jump into one weekend and say, I'm going to do it. When you wake up one weekend, I'm going to do it. No, it doesn't work that way. So we are going to be talking about sacred plant medicines, and ayahuasca is considered to be one of them. Master teachers, master healers, and ayahuasca is certainly considered to be one. But on a smaller level, plant medicine, everybody uses plant medicine every day. If you use spices in your food, you're using plant medicine. What we're talking about today is on a much higher spiritual level. Okay, I just wanted to make sure we got that out there, so that you're not thinking that ayahuasca is just like this simple thing that you just go. No, it's not like that. We're talking about a major plant healer here.
Thank you.
So Shawn, could you answer the question in terms of how do you when you take the medicine, then when does it kick in, and how long do you stay into the state where you can begin to work these things out? What's that process like?
So we're talking about like a 6-hour experience. Leading up to that, about 2 weeks prior, you definitely want to go through what people would say, you know, a fast or a detox, meaning you want to avoid things like alcohol, sex, salt, sugar, meat. You know, you want to avoid those things. You want to eat almost like a vegetarian, you know, / vegan diet for the next 2 weeks before you go into ceremony. That doesn't mean that you're not going to eat during ceremony, but I mean, during the time that you're you know, in that sort of environment. But you have to give yourself say a 4-hour window before ceremony to not eat. You know, once the ceremony, you know, once you go through that process of the 6 hours, then you can eat. But you want to, you know, you still want to avoid, you know, the same things that I said that you should refrain from, you know, 2 weeks prior, until, you know, once you come out of that whole experience after whatever, how many days you sat with that medicine, then you can go back to eating meat or, you know, have your liquor or whatever like that, whatever your vices are or whatever like that. Also to just, from my experience, you know, there's two other medicines that I've done prior to doing ayahuasca. There's a snuff called hape, which is something that you snuff it up your nose. It's supposed to open your third eye. And if anybody wants to research what I'm talking about, hape, you can spell it. You can either use HAPE or you can use some people pronounce it as rape because it's spelled RAPEH. And you should be able to find information on Google that'll kind of explain to you more in depthly what it is. There's different kinds of hape that you can use for different things. It helps with grounding you. It helps with you to release. In my experience, I've had very emotional releasing experiences with hape. And what I mean is I tier and crop, you know. Then there is Sananga, which is an eye drop, which does similar almost the same thing, but it has a lot of healing benefits to it as well. I would look that up as well. It's spelled Sananga, and you can look that information up. It'll break down exactly what in particular that stuff is used for. It is a eye drop that does burn for a few seconds in your eyes, but it does open up your third eye as well, and it does help you to release emotionally. And
it provides a lot of clarity.
Yeah, a lot of clarity, a lot of mental clarity. Yeah, and so once you go through that, then you drink the ayahuasca. The ayahuasca itself is very, very strong. It's very concentrated because, like I said earlier, it's a combination of the leaf, the tree vine, and then it's some tobacco, and then you have water, Florida water in that, and so it comes out as a drink. You know what I'm saying? But it's a very strong drink. Like, I'll say how strong it is. There's been times where I might not have had the cup near me, but my nostrils pick up on the scent of how strong it is. And I'll even add that this medicine, ayahuasca, does have the tendency to make you throw up. And that's for good reason. It's like I said, it's a spiritual detox. So if I'm not near it and I have the cup, or if I kind of get a whiff of it, sometimes it will make me throw up, because that's how strong it is. And once it's inside of you, it's doing all kind of analysis in your body. It's cleaning out what's not supposed to be in your body. It's not just spiritually, but even just on a physical level, like certain foods that you need to leave alone, or certain beverages that you need to leave alone, certain activities that you do, that you engage in. It'll let you know that you need to leave that alone. Like, I've had experiences on the medicine where it showed me I needed to leave Aunt Jemima pancakes alone. It showed me experiences where I needed to leave egg yolk alone, or eggs alone. It's shown me certain people that I need to leave alone. It's shown me family that I never knew about. Family that were before me that experienced certain things. And so, like, that's to answer your question, to further answer your question, Laron, like, to prepare for the ceremony of this stature, like, what I explained to you about detoxing and fasting, that's the part of you that you need to learn how to surrender to as well, because you think about some of the habits that we had for God knows for how long, and it's hard for us to kick those habits. Say you're a smoker, or you're a cigarette smoker, or you're a drinker, or you eating something that's not good for your say your organs or whatever like that. You continually just doing it, and so the medicine will just kind of remind you and say, hey man, like, you might want to try. You might want to eat this stuff in moderation. You just might want to leave this stuff alone. Right. But that whole process of that, like the fasting, you detox, and then you go through the experience of the journey. And when you come out of it, you become more self-aware in how you treat your body. You may change your diet. You may add certain things. You may eliminate certain things. And then just your behavior too. Like, you may avoid certain behavior. You may alternate your behavior and improve your behavior, or just how your relations are with people. Because it gives you an opportunity to look at you, the inner you. The things that you either have been ignoring in yourself subconsciously, or just deliberately. And that's why I say earlier, like, you can fight all you want with the medicine, but the medicine is going to fight you back, and it's just going to make it harder for you.
But I want to ask you this question while you're right there before you get too far away from it, Shawn, because you mentioned the third eye. Okay, so maybe like you
Your
talking to
pineal gland.
someone like me,
Your
I never
pineal
heard
gland.
that. I never heard that until
Your
I met
pineal gland,
you
Laron.
and Gina, and you start talking about this. Okay,
I'm
so for
talking about the
someone like
pineal
me,
gland.
what
I'm
does
talking
that
about the
mean?
pineal gland in your head.
Well,
That's what I'm talking
your
about.
pineal gland is what it's called your third eye, which is basically your
Correct.
intuition. You know,
Right. And they can look that up too. They can Google that too. They can type pineal gland and find out what that information is, or put third eye in Google and it'll show them exactly what I'm talking
yeah, it's basically about trusting your intuition.
Yeah, that's the thing that I had a conversation with one of my good brother friends the other day, because he leans more into his logic. Not to say that you shouldn't as a man, but I encouraged him to kind of embrace and tap into his own intuition sometimes. And I know a lot of men, it's hard for them to really on a spiritual level really go into their inner world. But that's something that, like Gina just said, like the medicine helps you to do that. It helps you to tap into your inner world. It helps you to tap into your emotions. It helps you to tap into your heart space, because you have people out walking around that have all kind of blockages in their body, and they don't know why, or they're not even aware that they have blockages in their body. But the medicine will open those things up. It'll remove whatever it is that's causing you to not adhere, or whatever it is that's calling you to ignore what it is that your body is telling you, what your intuition is telling you inside of you.
Well, I'm curious.
Regardless of what your brain is telling you.
I'm curious because when you say what you just said, you said it helps you tap into your emotions. As far as a man, why would I want to tap into my emotions as a man to have this experience? What am I looking to gain out of it for that? So kind of speak to the men. Why do you want to say, brothers, tap into your emotions? This is going to help you do what?
Well, as a man, most men, and we can say specifically Black men, growing up, as young boys, we get to a certain point in our youth where we're able to tap into our emotions, but then we get taught and told to stop crying and man up, and that basically cuts off our emotional development. Women don't have that experience, being told to stop crying. And so that affects us. That affects our emotional intelligence. That affects our relationship with other people. That affects just a lot of our health issues. Like we have high blood pressure, diabetes, hypertension, anxiety, depression. All these different problems that we have with Black men, health-wise, stem from the lack of emotional development. Where men are their anger, they're not able to manage their anger properly. They're not able to communicate properly. They're not able to grieve. Things like grieving, like they're not able to be vulnerable and share with people and not be afraid. So that's why emotional tapping into your emotions is very important. And it just, it's just also too, it's just, Laron, it's also important for us as men to learn how to feel.
So, but Gina,
and
maybe
not just have this rigid, conservative take in the world, and just not really empathize and feel what other people are going through, or what we're going through internally.
So, but help me with this question, Shawn, and Gina, if you can probably answer this with Shawn or whatever, but so why would I not, as a guy, if I want to do these things, why would I not just say, I just want to go get normal therapy. Just go get, mental health,
Well,
mental
that's a
therapy
step.
versus
No, we're not. I
ayahuasca.
don't think
Why?
I don't think we're suggesting that anyone who's having these issues not go for therapy.
Right,
Please go to
right.
therapy if you need to go to therapy. That's the thing. We're not saying don't go to therapy. What we're talking about is Shawn's experience with these master teachers, these master healer plants, these sacred plants.
Mhm.
That that's what we're talking about. Now, if you feel like you're being called to this, then by all means contact Shawn, talk about it with Shawn, or contact somebody else who's knowledgeable in this field. But if you are experiencing any kind of emotional issues, mental issues, and you feel like you need to go and see a psychotherapist, a psychiatrist, psychologist, please do. We're not saying do an ayahuasca ceremony and it's going to heal everything. No, please go and see somebody. We're talking about Shawn's experience with this medicine, and not my personal experience, but I've discussed this with lots of other people to learn about their experiences. We've had, one person go to therapy for years, and one weekend of ayahuasca took care of a lot that years of therapy didn't. I know one person who goes into ayahuasca because that's where they get a lot of information, and they get a lot of curriculum that they actually teach, and it comes through an ayahuasca ceremony. And while we're on that, I can give you a list of famous people. Some things right now, if you have an Apple phone in your hand, that was an idea that came out of an ayahuasca ceremony. You can go and do your research and find out people like Paul Simon, some of his songs. If you're familiar with Paul Simon and you love his music, a lot of his music came out of an ayahuasca ceremony. Jim Carrey has admitted to doing ayahuasca, among other things, not just ayahuasca. Sting, he talks about experiencing the world on a molecular level. So his whole sight changed, the way that he looks at the world. That completely.
He's talking about quantum physics, yeah. He's
right.
talking about quantum physics, yeah.
Steve Jobs, who I just mentioned, with Apple and everything. The Beatles, several members of the Beatles have admitted to this. Carlos Santana. If you've ever heard him pick up his guitar. Okay, well, a lot of his music came out from.
He's experienced he experienced a lot of child molestation and sexual abuse. Carlos Santana.
Right, and he did a lot of ayahuasca. Ayahuasca ceremonies for healing, but a lot of his music also came up from that. And so this is not something that, if you haven't done the research on this, definitely do it. It's there are a few other things we're going to talk about. We're also going to talk about how, the decriminalizing of a lot of these plants is taking place right now, because there's ayahuasca, which a lot of people have been working with, and another one that you're going to mention, Shawn, I think is psilocybin, which where if you're familiar with back in the 60s and 70s, the whole LSD, that sort of thing. Well, psilocybin is now being worked with by a lot of doctors in treating depression and a lot of those mental illnesses, because they finally figured out how to work with the sacred plant medicine, right? Because that one again is a master teacher.
Yeah.
So I think we're slowly coming away from the whole, criminal aspect of it, and realizing that these plants that have been around for thousands of years can actually really help when they're worked with in the right way.
Yeah. So Gina, you said that we can actually Google these names. You said Paul Simon, Jim Carrey, Steve Jobs, the Beagles, Carlos Santana. You say we can actually Google these names.
You can look them up, and you'll find that they've all admitted to working with ayahuasca, to working with psilocybin, and to working with all the other stuff, including marijuana. And people think about marijuana, they automatically think But hey, some of the best music has come out of people who smoke marijuana. Bob Marley. And we're going to talk about Bob Marley in a whole other setting when it comes to, because we're going to talk about sound frequencies in a little bit. And a lot of the music that we love so much has been been created around certain frequencies, and that's why they stick with us, because they speak with certain frequency within us. So But we're jumping ahead a little bit here. So let's come back to the ayahuasca and the psilocybin. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear too, what you were saying, like I'm not encouraging people to just say don't go to a therapist. Like I went to a therapist years prior to having ayahuasca and mushroom experiences. I still stay in touch with my therapist. She's virtual. Um, you know, but I encourage men, especially Black men in particular, I encourage them to still, seek out a therapist. You know what I mean? Even if you do go through with you do go through an ayahuasca experience, I do encourage you to speak to someone who is certified or someone who has had experiences like this, that may be a therapist or that may be able to refer you to a therapist. Because one of the things too, when you do come out of these experiences, it's a lot to process. It's a lot to take in. And it's, so much in a 6-hour time frame that you experience, you don't remember it all at the same time. It's sort of like when you go to sleep at night and you have a dream, and then you wake up, you forget about the dream, but then you see something that's associated with what you remembered from the dream. And it may be a week later, maybe a month later, maybe a year later. So I highly encourage men to seek out people who are qualified, that are therapists, psychotherapists, or even they do integration therapy.
That's one of the things I was going to mention.
Before or after, wherever you at or wherever you are on your journey, I don't count out a person going to see a therapist. Like that's something that you should do. Even if it's only one time you sit with them.
And sometimes you can even find a therapist who has gone through the ayahuasca ceremony. So, they're not, they're few and far between, but they do exist.
Right.
So you can find a therapist or a psychiatrist, psychologist who's gone through an ayahuasca ceremony. That's even better for you, because then even
a hypnotherapist.
Right.
And I'm glad that we're speaking. I'm glad we're speaking to therapists as we talk through all of this, because first and foremost, I don't want anyone to say, hey, on Black Digital Media, we went and we did this thing and fell out, and life is so. But I appreciate what you both are saying, is to do your research first, and definitely if you want to check with a therapist, talk to
the people that have had these experiences.
Okay,
right.
Trust in them, but like Laron is saying, do your research too. Because it's not something you just want to jump into. You want to do your due diligence, and trust and safety is very important. So whatever avenue that you go about doing this, do your research.
So before we move on, Gina, because I just want to say this part. So the plant leaf for ayahuasca, is there any side effects from taking this, or is it something that if people have certain conditions that they should not take this? Is that something that you can speak to or know of specifically?
So from what I understand, like if people are on certain medications, like if they're on certain medications that are like a high blood pressure, diabetes, those kind of things, they might want to refrain from and do some research or talk to their doctor. As far as side effects, I wouldn't say I've experienced any side effects. If anything, I've experienced is just more mental clarity and just being more knowledgeable, or just more aware of how I should diet, like what I should eat and how I should eat it and when. Like I've slimmed down a lot. I've lost a lot of weight from these experiences, before them and after them.
And I only ask these. Go ahead, Gina.
From a complementary medical perspective here, if you are on medications like that and you have some plan to do an ayahuasca ceremony, you're going to want to discuss that with your doctor, because there's some medications that you have to come off of several weeks prior to doing an ayahuasca ceremony, and you want to make sure that your doctor knows what you're doing. So we're not saying, forget about what your doctor says. Your doctor will work with you. If you say, I'm doing this for my, spiritual growth, spiritual transformation, they will work with you. But you have to let them know. So don't ignore your doctor's advice and go and do something that you know that you have no business doing. Don't come off of any medication unless your doctor gives you permission. So, yes, go. If you do the ayahuasca ceremony, before you do it, contact your doctor. Say, this is my plan. I know that we need to have like 6 weeks of preparation. How can I come off of this medication in a safe way? Are there alternatives that I can do in the meantime? And then kind of build up from there. But talk to your doctor.
I only ask these questions, Shawn, Gina, you know it, because I just want to say it and put it out there so that we can educate people as much as we can as to what to expect, what this is all about, but just kind of give them some education at the same time too. And then let them kind of make that decision as to why should I get this kind of therapy? Why should I do this kind of detox? And okay, I'll consult my therapist or whatever. And I just want to make sure we put all of that out there.
Yeah, I wanted to add too, increasingly I've noticed on like platforms like Clubhouse, there are a lot more doctors. I don't know if they're natural, is it naturopathic?
Yeah.
Either them or just other doctors having conversations more about plant medicines. If you don't have a doctor or, like telehealth is pretty big now. I would encourage you also to like find a room on Clubhouse where they're talking about what we're talking about as far as plant medicines and see what they say, or look into whatever they're writing about, or, whatever studies they're doing in regards to plant medicines, to kind of get an idea, or, just so that you can kind of like cross your T's and dot your I's as far as like who you should listen to and who you shouldn't listen to. At the end of the day, I would say to trust yourself, use your intuition, but Gina's very much, Gina, you've covered it, and as well, Laron, you've covered it. Definitely, yeah, what you guys are saying is definitely spot on.
So Gina mentioned them. You said these are plant. Shawn says plant medicine, ayahuasca. What are some of these plant medicines? What are they? You said that these are things that we use on a daily basis, or we use them a lot to plant. What are these?
Well, when you think of plant medicine, it's medicine that come from plants. So a lot of us use plant medicine on a daily basis and not realize it. If you use rosemary is a plant. You put it into your food. It creates a certain effect in your body. It's plant medicine. You use thyme, you use mentioned rosemary, you use basil. These are all plant medicines. Now they're not on the same level as ayahuasca. That's a totally different level. But we all use plant medicine on a regular basis, but we don't really think about it. When you see, for me, if you watch me cook, you'll notice I don't have my phone around. My phone is in another area. I try not to be talking to anyone, because for me, cooking is a sacred act. When I am adding anything into whatever dish I'm cooking, I'm putting it in there with intention. When I put in basil, I know why I'm putting in the basil. When I put in rosemary, I know why it's going in there, because these all serve a purpose in whatever dish I'm cooking. So it's plant medicine. But when we're talking about things like ayahuasca and psilocybin and like cannabis, those are on a whole other scale. Okay, we can't put cannabis in the same category as basil, because they're totally different.
No.
Right. So everyone uses plant medicine at some point.
On some level, yeah.
On some level,
the tea that we drink, the marijuana that we smoke, or the marijuana we make into a tea, you have certain ailments, or you have bruises or body pain. We use herbs for those are plant medicines, shoot, we even use plant medicines for our hair. You know what I'm saying? The stuff that's in certain products, and
Right.
to grow our hair and to grow our beards, to make our skin a certain way, but we have certain stomach ailments, stomach problems.
So is aloe vera, is that considered a plant medicine?
I would think so. I would say it is on some level.
It's a plant, and we use it. We extract the gel from it. The gel is supposed to be good for certain things within the body. It's a medicine, right? But it's also food, But food is medicine. We come back to that. I always say food is medicine. What you put into your mouth, it's either medicine or it's poison. So,
I mean, think about it even further, Laron.
Huh?
Think about it even further, Laron. You have women who use yoni steams, and they use herbs to detoxify their yoni. There are herbs that detoxify the phallus. That's a plant medicine.
The reason I bring these questions out also is because I think if you explain it from that simple level, everybody else may not be where you all are. So when they hear plant medicine, they may not know how to break that down. Oh, I use this in food. I use this. And then you gradually build them up to, okay, this is ayahuasca at this point. So I just want to make sure we're educating along the way. I think we're doing a great job. So go ahead.
Right.
Everybody's not like me.
Everybody's not like me. So I get
Everybody's not like me. And that's the thing. Bring it back to ayahuasca. Everybody's experience with ayahuasca is different. It's completely different. So you can't you can't talk to one person who's had their experience. The next person, their experience is going to be totally different. Because
and also I want to be clear. I also want to be clear, especially for you, Laron. I want to be clear. So going back to your question about what this would look like for somebody that's new, like this is not something that they do by themselves. This is something that they're doing where they're having somebody's facilitating this whole process for them. You know what I'm saying? This is a very sacred experience. So it's not like you could go to the store and get a pack of cigarettes or go to your plug and get some marijuana. Like this is a totally different, like we're talking about levels of things. This is a different level of experience in itself.
So I
wanted to be clear. I wanted to be clear on that so that I didn't want anybody to think that, oh, I can just go and do this in the comfort of my home and do it by myself. It doesn't work that way.
So on that note, Shawn, is this practice more coming along in the US? Does different countries, different parts of the world that this is practiced a little bit more? How would you answer that?
I would say it's something that like outside of the country that has been going on for a bunch of years. You got a lot of the European demographic that will go down to Brazil or go to Peru and have these experiences, but I won't say in particular, like, I mean, there is a strong possibility here in the US that is going on, or that at some point that's going to happen. Because like you guys both mentioned, there's a lot of push to legalize and decriminalize some of these medicines that we're talking about.
Right.
So, but you mentioned, Shawn, in Clubhouse. So what kind of Clubhouse organizations or parts of the Clubhouse that would kind of speak to this? Is it something dealing with medicine, certain treatments?
I can't speak off of any kind of name of ones.
Okay.
But just, if you're on those platforms, just type those keywords in and see what comes up.
Okay.
There may be a club, there may be a particular individual that does that type of work, or that they're into that type of thing. But there's communities on there that talk about what we're talking about.
Okay.
And they're going further. They're going deeper into these conversations. What's that?
No, I was saying it's very encouraging to see that there are actors on there who are now having these discussions.
Yeah. Very much like we talked about art therapy before. There's people talking about art. There's people talking about all kind of different subjects, subjects that would be considered taboo to people, they're having those conversations,
All right, so
Gina?
let's move on to
Enough of my class level.
let's talk about psilocybin for a couple of minutes. That's another master healer that's actually older than ayahuasca. But I think now there's when people think of psilocybin, they're very familiar with LSD, right? Which is where it comes from. But psilocybin, the mushroom, is now considered to be it's a master healer, it's a master teacher.
I'm not sure if that's 100% what you just said as far as it coming from LSD.
The LSD. I believe. Is it from?
LSD is synthetic. LSD is synthetic. Like psilocybin mushrooms come from a totally different thing. It's not a synthetic. It's not connected to LSD.
Okay, so what is the? All right. Okay. Well, let's just talk about psilocybin. I'm going to do a little bit more research into that because I might have misread something then. But
yeah, I think you might have misread. And I don't want your viewers to get confused. I'm looking at Laron.
Right.
I'm like, let's clear that up. Like that's like night and day. Like,
and it's okay. But when you start talking LSD, as long as we're giving facts or some.
I don't have much information on LSD.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I only have experience from psilocybin mushrooms, high doses of mushroom. I know that that is something that comes from the earth. That's something that has been here long before any of us were here.
Yeah, but sometimes people, when you talk about mushrooms and treatments, is that like something that's like people would have a hesitancy to speak to? Is that mushroom? Is that almost like marijuana? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying. And as I stated before, like, when we talk about things like ayahuasca and mushrooms that are used, psychedelically, or as an entheogen, these are not on the same level as a cigarette, as a blunt, cocaine, pills, alcohol. This is not that. Like, you don't even treat. This is another thing that is sacred. So you have to give it reverence. You have to respect it. You know what I'm saying? You have to treat it as such. You can't treat it like it's just somebody, like an acquaintance. Like it's something that you got to respect and treat it properly, and then it will give you what you need, back.
Okay, Gina.
So as you were mentioning that, I'm here thinking, if we have that same kind of respect. Yes, I know that there are certain plant medicines that we work with that you really have to give a high level of respect to. Psilocybin is one, ayahuasca is one, marijuana is one, although a lot of people don't really respect that as much because it's always laced with some other thing. But if we take that same level of respect and just give to plants in general, because I think there's been, and I'm going to go off on a whole other tangent here, I know, because I'm sitting in front of this window and I'm looking at this huge tree and a couple of trees back there, and I thought to myself, when you mentioned that, I said, if we were to give that same kind of reverence, that same kind of respect to nature in general, how much more connected we would feel. Because I think right now there's such a disconnect from
big time
with humans and nature, And I think that's where we need a lot of people who are working with these sacred plants. When I say sacred, I mean the things like the mushrooms and ayahuasca and these what we call master teacher plants. They're looking to get reconnected with nature. That's one of the things I'm feeling, is that where they're looking for, because they've lost the connection somewhere, so they're looking to get reconnected. And I
Yeah.
know people, we talk about earthing where we go outside and we stand on the ground for 30 minutes and we reconnect ourselves, our frequency to the earth's frequency. And we talk about forest bathing, walking through the forest and, interacting with the trees and the plants that are there. That's on a smaller level. But I think that's what we're really looking for is just a reconnection to nature. And some of us choose to do it on a smaller level with, much nicer plants that aren't going to really kick our butts too strongly. And some of us choose to the psilocybin and to ayahuasca. But I think what's missing is the connection. That's
yeah. The interconnection is. What'd you say?
No, sorry. I said I know how I feel whenever I'm not able to like go down to the ocean or go and stand in among some trees because I'm like I'm like a huge tree freak. People will tell you, my sister will tell you that I have this thing about trees. It's like if a tree or a large area of trees is cut down, I feel it physically. It's not something I'm making up. I physically feel it in my body when I see a large area. It's almost like they're in pain and I'm feeling what they're going through. But and I think it has something to do with the fact that that connection is not there anymore. So because I think there's just a lack of respect for nature in general, where they don't. A lot of these plants are not considered to be like living things or not on the level that we are. And I'm saying that because I read a post recently in one of the groups, and this lady was talking about how she was walking in this forest, and all of a sudden she got to this one tree, and she suddenly she was almost in pain, and she couldn't understand why, because she's never felt that before. And then she talked about turning to the tree, and she realized that there was a nail that had been embedded in the tree. And she was feeling what the tree was feeling with having this nail in its trunk. And she said she desperately was trying to remove the nail because she realized that that's where the pain was coming from. And because she couldn't remove the nail, she literally stood there and just hugged this tree until the pain subsided. And it was like, she said, I've never felt that before, ever.
That's exactly that. What you just explained right there is exactly what the medicine does or tries to do to get you to surrender and understand that, hey, this is pain. You have some pain in here that you need to work on. You need to deal with. It's pointing you into that direction of, and you don't know why you're feeling the way you feel. You don't know why you're seeing what you see. And it's like this with the ayahuasca as well as mushrooms. Like it's gonna point you in the direction of something. You don't know why you're seeing and feeling what you feel. But if you pay close attention, and then when you come out of those experiences and you really process what it is that you see, now it's time to really deal with whatever it is that has been underlying within you for God knows how long.
Right.
But that's a great experience. That's a great story of what these experiences are trying to do and why it's so important, Laron, for men to connect with their emotions. But you see why it's so important. Like Gina's very much in tune with her intuitive side. If she wasn't in tune with her intuitive side, she wouldn't have looked at. I mean, if that woman that she told us about didn't share that experience with her, or had she had not paid attention, she probably wouldn't have thought anything of it.
Yeah.
But it's like, with these experiences, it gives you more awareness to that you do have a disconnect with nature, and that you need to commune with nature. You need to spend more time with nature. You need to give nature reverence, in your day to day.
But speak to before we move on, and I know we got a lot of Gina, you want to cover some things, but I just want to make sure I mention this part. Speak, either both of you can speak to this. When you say give reverence to, and respect to these plants, what does that actually mean?
It means don't abuse them, for one.
How would I abuse it?
Don't treat them like you would treat a pack of cigarettes. Don't treat them like you would treat happy hour. You know, where you had 3 or 4 drinks. Like, it's kind of like it's no different than if you went into a church, right? You know, you come into the church in a certain way. You give reverence to what is going on. You're not doing anything that's like out of the guidelines or inappropriate. Like you sort of give it respect. Like you're not talking during the procession. Like, you know what I mean? That's what I mean. Like you treat it with respect. You treat the medicine with respect, and how you serve it or how you take it, the environment that you're in, you giving it reverence. Like that's what I mean. Like, you know.
And here's the thing. When it comes to, you know, just think of the connection between trees and us. What do trees do for us?
They give us oxygen.
That's the most important thing.
They give us oxygen, and we
give us oxygen.
Yeah.
When you see, and that's for me, when I see like acres and acres of trees just literally chopped down almost overnight, it's like, do these people realize and this done all in the name of progress, right? Because there's this nice big concrete community that's going to go up, right?
Capitalism.
They just do, right?
Capitalism.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. They do that all in the name of capitalism. All of these trees are removed. And I remember one time I was driving over to Cocoa. I had Nicholas in the car with me, and we got to this one area, and all of a sudden I couldn't breathe. I literally could not breathe. It was just like somebody was holding my neck, right? And I realized that acres and acres and acres of trees that used to be there like several weeks before were now leveled. And I was literally feeling that, right? It was like I couldn't breathe, and it was the trees weren't there.
I've had experiences like
the connections, like there's no oxygen here, and now I can't breathe.
I've had experiences like that.
Yeah,
but more so like I feel like I'm having an anxiety attack or panic attack.
Right. Except for me, that I physically like could not breathe, and that's what I mean when reverence and respect is. Just think about what these plants and these trees do for us. They create oxygen. They do. They create oxygen. Some plants that we do eat, when we eat all of these leafy greens, we're taking in the chlorophyll into our bodies. That chlorophyll has been transformed by the sun, right? The sun has worked this special magic on these plants, and we take it into our bodies, and into our bodies it creates, you know, all of this really good stuff that happens within. We don't have, you know, dinner time is not sacred like it was before, you know, but when you sit down and you really take the time to make your meals, and you sit down around the table and you eat intentionally, it puts even more reverence into and respect into these plants, not just the ones that you look at out there, but the ones that you eat as well. And I think we've lost all of that.
It's sort of similar to like I was saying before about speaking into your water and seeing how the water affects you energetically. It's no different. You know, you giving reverence to the water. That's an element that we need in order to survive. 90% of our body is water.
That's one of the things I wanted to talk about later on, because I wanted to talk about structured water. And one of the things, because the water that we drink, since we're on the topic of water, let's just talk about it right now. The water that we drink, we buy these water bottles, right? And the water bottles sit in the store, and the water doesn't move. It just sits there in your water bottle. But water doesn't do that. Water is meant to move. When you go to a waterfall, it's moving. When you go to a river, the water is moving. You go to the ocean, the water is moving, because water is meant to move. We're meant to move. So we are 75%, they say, water, right? Our body is made of water. Our bodies are constantly moving. Even if we are laying still, our bodies are constantly moving because that blood is flowing through our bodies, right?
Yeah.
Our cells are constantly moving. We need to move. So why are we drinking water that is just stagnant? It just sits there in a water bottle. So one of the things that I like to do, and I'm gonna throw this out, and it's gonna sound really weird and really out there, but it's been documented. It's proven. It works. Before I drink water, I like to shake up my water bottle, but I pour it into another container, and I'm going to show you. I was going to discuss this I'm trying to find where right on this. I don't know if you can see it. It says 528 hertz. This is a tuning fork. For those of you who have no idea what I'm holding, it's a tuning fork. And I worked with this a lot years back when I was diagnosed with lupus and I was having all this joint pain. And I use this a lot in helping with pain therapy. But this particular frequency, the 528 frequency, is the same one that was used to heal the Gulf Coast years back. Remember when there was that oil spill? And they cleaned up all the oil spill, but a lot of the plants had been damaged. And the 528 frequency is what was used to heal a lot of the plants and to heal the Gulf waters, right? But one of the things I do is I take this and I strike it. Let me just go ahead and use my little mallet. I like to strike it. You can hear it. It's vibrating. And then I take that and I put that into my water. And I send that frequency into my water. So my water is vibrating. It's now moving. And then I drink my water. That's one way of doing it. It creates, that number one, it infuses it with the 528 frequency, but it gets my water moving. Because a lot of people, you see, they just pop open the water bottle and they're drinking, and the water has been sitting there forever, and it's in plastic,
right?
Of course, which is not really good for you unless you have a special kind of plastic. But that's the idea. We need to move. We need to get back to, yeah. I know.
That's Laron, that's basically in a nutshell. That's what we mean when we say reverence. That's what she's just talking about with that. That's giving the water reverence right there.
Yeah, because most people like me would probably sit there and like, are you serious? That's what you do just to drink some water? But when you look at things from this perspective that you all are speaking to and the show today, then that means that better defines reverence and respect, if you will, for people like me that just really don't know what you're speaking to. So thanks, Gina, for that example. And Shawn, you following up, that's what that means.
To further explain this, when you like she mentioned food earlier, when you sit down to eat food, most people that grew up, I guess you could say Christian, they didn't just eat the food, they gave reverence. They prayed and blessed the food. They blessed the people. They were great. They showed gratitude. Yes.
That's very interesting. That's very interesting, Gina, that you brought and you showed what you do with the water, because I've known you for many years. I've never heard you say that. A lot of people probably don't even, but I like the fact that you said that when the oil spill came, they used a frequency to clean to decontaminate or kind of get that water much cleaner. So you kind of speaking scientifics to what does that mean when you say a frequency?
Shawn, you want to take that one on?
Well, we're talking about vibration, level of vibration, through sound, sound has certain levels of vibration, like the music that we listen to, the music that we grew up listening to, the music that we hear in certain spiritual environments, or even in our own homes. Like they all have a level of frequency. Hip hop has a frequency, classical music has a frequency, reggae music has a frequency. All kind of different music has a certain type of frequency that either resonates with us or doesn't resonate with us, or it puts us in a certain type of energy or mood, you know, whether it be we want to move fast, we want to move slow, or we don't want to move at all. You know, some frequencies just get us to think.
You know, it's interesting when you say that, because I think, Gina, we talked about that yesterday somewhat, the frequency. And Shawn, you're talking about music. So if we want to be in a nice, calm music, we may put on some slow music, some jazz music. If I want to work out, then I put up maybe some fast music, you know, exercise, rada, 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 rada. Yeah. And, you know, if it's office music, then those are the frequencies that these musics that you're speaking to puts our bodies in. Yeah. And this is how our body responds to the frequency that you're speaking of, to music. Yeah. Right.
Well, there's certain
music sound.
It in this way. Okay, think about music that has been around, and you know, when you think about certain musicians, their songs are like timeless. For example, think about Elton John. There's certain songs, when you mention it, it just puts you into like this frame of mind, and when you hear it, it just gives you like all the feels. Okay. And think about songs by Phil Collins. Those two, especially for me, those are two of my favorite musicians. Then when I really started to study them and study their music, I found that a lot of their music is written with 528 frequency or 432 frequency. And I'm going to get a little bit clearer on it. These frequencies that I'm referring to are solfeggio frequencies. And there are, I believe, 9 of them. And you can do your research on YouTube where you can find it. I'm hearing an echo. I want to make sure that I'm not turned on somewhere. So you can do the research on YouTube. You'll find lots of videos talking about solfeggio frequencies and the 432. And you mentioned reggae. A lot of Bob Marley's music was actually written with a 432 frequency. That's why his music he's been dead for decades now, but his music is timeless. It doesn't matter how young or old you are, people love Bob Marley's music. Right?
Michael Jackson, Bob Marley. Yeah.
And it's the same thing with Elton John. Phil Collins, maybe not so much, because he's been, but a lot of my kids especially, they love Elton John's music, you know, from El Dorado, the movie El Dorado, and a few other movies that Elton John's music has appeared in, like Lion King, I believe is another one. But my kids love that music. And then I tell, Elton John? No, we just like the music, but Elton John is the one who wrote it. And because he writes in a certain frequency, it has that connection with us. It just gets through to us somehow.
All right. So go ahead.
I'm going to talk about a few of other of the solfeggio frequencies. There's another one that I worked with, 140. Oh gosh, I don't remember what number. 142, I think it. I don't remember which frequency this was, but it's a pain frequency. And I played it. I remember I played it every single night for an entire month. And I had no pain whatsoever, because at the time I was always in pain. My joints were always inflamed. So I started working with a lot of sound therapy and frequency, playing the certain frequencies for certain things. So I was playing this particular pain frequency, and it really did help. Like I said, I played it for like an entire month, and I realized that every time the pain was just gradually gone until one day it was just gone. Right? Yeah.
There's certain frequencies, be it through music or just through sound, like if you chant or if you're throat singing, that can help you to release emotionally. You want to cry, or open up your chakras. Open up your heart. Open up your throat. These certain blockages that you may have in your body. The sound healing has the ability to do that, as well as music.
I want to demonstrate the difference between, because I have two. I've got the 528 frequency, and I have 963. 963, we mentioned third eye earlier, Laron. The 963 is considered to be the third eye. Let me get this. This is considered to be the third eye frequency, the 963. And it's in the blue color, which the blue is usually associated with your third eye, right? I know that's a lot out there, but you go do the research. It's the color, there's color association as well. But I want to see if I can get the difference in the, if you can hear the difference in the sounds. Okay. So this is the 963. Hold on. Let me see. Can you hear that?
Yes.
Okay, it's kind of all right. So let me just stop that one. Now remember that one. Now here is this is the 528. Do you hear the difference?
Yes.
Okay, so when you listen to these different frequencies, you're gonna hear that there's a level in the sound as well. All right. So when you start to work with all of these different frequencies, and basically it's just a vibration. When you strike it, it creates a vibration. And if you were to put that into some water, which I don't have here, you would be able to see the water actually vibrating. You'd see the movement on there. It's creating movement. And that's the same thing applies when you strike this and you apply it to, let's say I have, like a really swollen wrist, and I strike this. If I was working with the pain one, let's say this is a pain, I would strike it and I would just apply it into the area where I'm feeling the pain. And it basically sends out a vibration of that frequency to help to relieve the pain. Right? So they're different, I know we kind of went from sacred plant medicine into sound like really quickly, but this is just another modality that we work with whenever you're, healing from different things, because I don't want people to think, oh, okay, you just pop a pill, because that's what this culture is used to. Is you
these are things that I just want to add, Laron. These are things that what she's showing us. These are just tools. These are tools that are used in ceremony too, like acoustic instruments, guitars, drums, sound bowls. All kind of different, like what she was showing us, like these are things that help you to tap into certain frequencies.
Let's bring this back to the church. When you go to church, most churches have a praise and worship at the beginning before the preacher starts, right? Because that music and the sound and the singing that creates all of this feeling good stuff within the body. It does. It creates this vibration going on in your body, and that guides you into the, being receptive to the message that's coming. At the beginning, before the church even starts, if you grew up in the Caribbean, most churches have a bell, right? And you hear that bell being rung at the beginning before church starts, right? Because that sends out vibration, sends out sound, number one, to remind you church is about to start. But there's something else that it does within your body to get you prepared, to get your mind ready to receive, going into ceremony, because it is a ceremony that we do every Sunday. People don't like to admit that, but it is. You know?
Yeah. So I want to say two things to this point at this point right here, because so you mentioned church, sound, music, because I know I was listening at one of the sessions today. On one of the shows, and then one of the ministers was talking, and as he began to talk, at certain points, maybe towards the end, the person on the piano or something, they'll hit a sound, and then the church says, "Oh yeah," and then he gets into it, and then they send that sound again, and so that's what you're speaking to, yeah, right?
Because our bodies respond to sound. Right. I remember hearing my grandmother walking throughout the house, and she would be humming. And I can still picture her to this day, because that, even though she wasn't uttering a word, that humming puts her in a state of calm. Right. It does something in your body when you're just humming a particular song. Right. Even if you're just humming.
And people are actually trying to get, so you talk about the 528 and then the 963. And we talk about these sounds, but basically when people are trying to go to sleep at night, they just want to calm themselves down. So they may put on ocean water. So are they trying to really find that calm frequency within their bodies to go to sleep? Is that what they're actually doing?
Yeah. Yeah. I've been using those for about 11 years. Different binaural beats on YouTube, theta realm waves, a lot of the sound bowl wave type sounds, the rain sounds, the water sounds, you know, different sound meditations. They all help me go to sleep.
And you know, I wanted to say that, Gina, because you showed those two instruments, but people just want to get in the car and they're riding around. They says, you know what, they maybe just went through maybe a traumatic situation at home, work, experience. They said, you know what, I just want to put on some music. But basically what they're doing, they're actually doing no different from what you just did. And they're trying to find that sound or that frequency to begin to calm them down. So I just wanted to kind of associate that, you know, from a lay perspective, if you will.
Right. And the same thing when it goes to, you ever listen to, and I could never really get into heavy metal music, because to me, heavy metal music sounded angry. And I don't like to listen to angry, because then it's going to make me angry, because whatever you listen to creates a certain reaction within you. That's why I could never listen to heavy metal music. And a lot of people who love that music, they will tell you, yes, they are angry people, but they love to listen to heavy metal because it is literally, the music is resonating with them because they're angry. The music is angry. So they're like really getting into it. I couldn't do that. I can't. And it's the same thing with rap music. And I know rap music has come a long way, and I've managed to be able to now listen to rap. But there was a time I couldn't listen to rap music because it just created like certain things within my head. And I'm like, I don't want that. Right. So, and a lot of people might not know this about me, but I'm going to say it. I was a huge fan, and I mean huge fan of horror movies at one point. And I realized, and I think Laron and I were talking about this recently, I've gotten to a point now, I guess because of I'm more aware, I'm older, wiser, whatever word you want to put in there. And I realized, you know, I can't be putting those kind of images into my head, because whatever you feed in your head, I mean, it creates a reaction, and it starts to send off. You mean your brain signals all the time that there's that movement again. Your body is always moving, so whatever you're feeding it, you're going to get that certain reaction, right? And I had to, because when I was younger, I'd watch a horror movie and I'd go and do whatever it is I wanted to do, and it wasn't, to me, at the time, it didn't seem like a big deal. But I've learned to say, you know what? I probably shouldn't be watching that right now. So you have to learn what to put into your head, what not to. That's why I can't watch the news sometimes, because the news just creates this, I don't know, like angst, or I don't know, it just does something. And so you really have to be careful of what you're feeding yourself, not just your body, but your emotional part, the mental part as well.
Yeah, so like the sound between the sound healing, the music, the ayahuasca, the mushrooms, they all point to what you just said. They all show you what it is that you should focus on, what you should not focus on, what you should work on, put in you, and what you should take out and leave alone.
Right. And I haven't done the ayahuasca. It's something I'm looking into. I'm just gonna admit it. But there are other plant medicines that I do work with, not on that higher level, but these ones, I mean, you can buy them anywhere. Things like uchu, highly available, perfect tea, mugwort. I love as a mugwort tea, but it also helps with, you know, I think it's considered to be like a dream herb. But I love the mugwort tea. Blue lotus is one of my favorite. So, and you did mention that you know,
Kamalanga is a yellow flower that's used for lucid dreaming.
I think I've heard about that one, but I'm so familiar with the ones I'm working with right now that it'll take me a while to because, like you said, I'm very in tune with with my intuition. There are things that I know that I know I shouldn't know, but I know. And when you try to I know. It's just, there's sometimes you wish you could like just turn it off, because there's certain things that you really don't want to know. There are visions that I receive, and it's almost like, God, I really don't want to know that. Take that away from me. I don't want to see it. I don't want to know it. But this is a journey that I've been on. This is work that I've done, because we all have these gifts, but so many of us, we suppress them, or we're afraid of them, so we suppress them, or we're not just aware of just how strong these gifts can be. If we really took the time to develop them, how beneficial they can be. And you don't necessarily have to do an ayahuasca ceremony. You don't have to do take psilocybin. You don't have to smoke a joint. You can simply do a meditation and start to just build your intuition, and start to work on stuff that that you're supposed to be working on, because we all have stuff that we need to deal with. Everybody.
And I just want to say at this point, and just kind of remind everyone that's listening and watch this, Shawn, he's an art therapy life coach. He's an anger management specialist, and he's a shamanic life coach, and he's a practitioner as well too. And so that's why we're talking about these things.
What type of practitioner am I?
I'm sorry?
What type of practitioner am I?
Yeah, which one?
Shawn is also
I'm a tantric practitioner.
Okay. So Shawn is very experienced and knowledgeable in these areas, and so Gina understands these things, so she definitely wanted to bring him on. And so I just, it's not many times I think we get a chance to see people look like us having these discussions. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So there's I was making some notes earlier for us to come on, and I think one of the things that I think a lot of people are afraid of when it comes to this discussion is like the mystery surrounding what ayahuasca does, and that the whole ceremony, what psilocybin, working with these, and I think there's just a mystery around it. There's still a mystery, even though there's a couple other things. Let me just share those with you. When we went to church, there's a lot of people who had these things, and this is a miniature one. If you grew up in the Caribbean, you went to church, you had a little tambourine, right? Because again, it's sound therapy. I worked with sound therapy quite a bit. As a baby, you probably have given your child, if you've had children, when they were a baby, you probably gave them a little rattle, right? So rattles have been around for a very long time. What else? Sound bowl. You mentioned the crystal bowl earlier. I actually have a Tibetan sound bowl, and this is something like if I'm feeling really, I don't know, for lack of a better word, off, I'll pick up my sound bowl and show it to you here, and I will just play this for a little bit, and it has a really, really pretty sound, and I can almost like feel, and the effect is if I were to try to describe it, picture a bunch of dominoes all lined up, like standing up on end, and then you hit one, and they all just kind of start to topple. When I play my sound bowl, that's what my cells feel like. Literally, like they're all falling into alignment, right? Because it creates a vibration within me, and almost kind of realigns my body, so to speak. So when we're talking,
I kind of visualize a pebble being thrown in a lake, in the ripples,
right?
How the ripples in the pond, But even
Kind
after
of
even after they disappear, it's like something is still going on.
Mm-hmm. I think we're kind of losing you. Your audio, I think, is did you hear that, Laron?
Yeah, I can hear it. It does. His audio did change.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, it's on a different frequency, Shawn.
you sound a little like distant.
It's like you're talking in a tunnel in the back.
Wow.
Let
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
I'm gonna play this just for a couple seconds so people can hear. If you've never heard a sound bowl, it's beautiful. Let me just go ahead and. I'm gonna bring it back. Can you guys hear that?
I can feel it, I can hear it, and I can see it.
Yes. So.
Wow. I
So
mean,
whenever
it does do something.
it creates, and it does give that kind of feeling within my body, and I'm sure a lot of people who are listening, almost like you feel chills, right? And
you
you,
know,
Shawn, you said you can see it as well. Some people do have that gift; they're able to see the vibration in it.
And it was like this blue, like triangle shape up here when I close my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
wow.
See, there's so
Yeah.
many different modalities when it comes to healing, and I think most people tend to stick with what they know, and they're so afraid because again of that. Let me just right now tell you the quote I wrote down. I said we have to make peace with the mystery, and we have to embrace that mystery because there's so much more to healing than just popping a pill, right? And I think we've gotten, and even let me just pull it back biblically. In the Bible, sound was what literally brought down the wall of Jericho. I mean, let's face it. But what did they use prior to that? They marched around, so they used movement, just constantly going around and around, and that was building up energy. They played their instruments, right? So there was dancing and singing, and as they went around and around, and then at the very end, they blew their trumpets, and the walls came crashing down. So we know that sound is a very, very powerful thing. So if you can do that to the walls of Jericho, I mean, that are supposed to be like, I don't know how many feet thick, then imagine what it can do as far as a healing modality within us. Because I want these are things that I want to become the norm when we're talking about other healing modalities, not just go to your doctor, okay, you have this going on, take a pill. Oh, but that pill causes a side effect. Well, here, take a pill for the side effect that this pill is causing you. By the time you're done, you have like 15 pills built up for one issue that you went to the doctor for. But they don't teach you about the nutrition. They don't teach you about all of these other things like sound. They don't ever tell you, you know what? You probably should go and just move, do a dance class, take some Tai Chi, whatever the case is, that sort of thing.
So how does this differ, Shawn and Gina? Because when you said they take pills, maybe move around for healing. So how does this differ when somebody says you do acupuncture? How is this? Is this in relation to something like that as well too? Acupuncture?
This would be in the line of a healing therapy. Yeah, that acupuncture, sound healing, meditation, yoga, tantra, qigong, and tai chi. If I'm sure your audience is avid readers. If they can look up, there's a book called The Healing Therapies Bible, and it shows you like all of the different. It's a thick book, but it's a small book, but it shows you all the different kind of healing therapies that people can get into and learn. And sound healing is one of them.
Yeah. And I think in response to you, Laron, I think the connection is it's energy. Everything is energy, right? And I think a lot of people tend to forget about that. When I struck the bowl and it sent out that vibration, we're talking about energy. My response, the response in my body was my response to the particular energy that was creating within me. But everything is energy. When they stick the needles into you during an acupuncture ceremony, they are looking for any kind of blockages that you may have in particular. What's the word that they like to use? I'm not an expert when it comes to acupuncture, but that's basically what they're doing, is looking to see where energy is blocked so that they can unblock it and have the energy flowing within your body. Because your whole your whole body has all of these, you know, we use the term chakra meridians. That is what I was looking for. So you want to make sure that there are no blockages within you. And this is just my opinion. It's not the general opinion, but I believe that all illness has an energetic origin. There's a blockage somewhere, which then causes an illness to develop later on. And that blockage could be from trauma. It could be from, you know, something that happened with
sexually transmitted
right.
diseases.
It could be from a lot of things, but it's energy. So that's the connection. So we're basically working with energy.
Yeah.
Shawn,
a lot of the illnesses stem from fear.
From what on?
Fear.
Fear? Okay. So, Shawn, Gina, if we're not going to finish, Shawn, one of the things I want to ask you to do, I don't know if it's what's going on with your speaker. Can you hit your mute button and then turn it back on?
Could you have a
Say it again?
say it again?
Same thing. Shawn,
You
can
you sound almost robotic.
Yeah. And let me do this, Shawn. I'm going to push you out and then you come back in and let's see if that fixes your audio. We can hear you, but it's just like she said, it's kind of robotic-y or something like that. So I'm going to push you out, but then you come back in. Okay. Okay. All right. So yeah, we just kind of removed Shawn real quick to see if that fixes his audio, but we're not kicking him out at all. We want him back. Let me see.
And I know that we're not seeing any comments here, but if you do have any comments at all that we're not seeing, we will certainly address those whenever we come off of the live stream. So don't feel like we're ignoring you. We're just not seeing them. So if you're on Facebook,
say something, Shawn.
What's that?
Okay, it's still the same thing. So I'm not quite sure what it is. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what that is. Yeah, so we're just trying to get Shawn's audio fixed, and we'll have him back on once he comes back in, just to kind of, because it sounds like he's speaking in a tunnel. All right, he's coming back. Right. Let's see if this helps.
But I hope that this has been a discussion. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
I think it was like, because my phone, you know, was on this thing for an hour and 30, and it's like probably sucking up a lot of data, so I had to like clear some of that. Yeah,
you're good now. We can hear you fine.
Cool.
Yeah.
So maybe we're going through all these big questions for people like me.
Well, you know, there's been a few guests that we've had on that have helped me a lot. So even if they say, you know, even if you reach one person, then you've done your mission, right?
Yeah.
So that's the goal.
Yeah.
Right. But I hope that everybody who's watching, that this has been very educational. One of the things I would like to see is maybe we have like a you know what? We haven't even addressed that painting in the background, Shawn. We need to bring that painting forward. Let's talk about that. Yes. But you are an art therapy life coach. So let's I know you brought that painting out because I mentioned my singing bowl. So what's the connection between the singing bowl and the painting? How did that come about?
So, you know, it took me a while to process after my last ayahuasca experience a couple months ago, where I had a moment where I got into chanting, and then I got into throat singing during the ceremony, where visually I was in the presence of angels. And when I say angels, they don't look like the angels that we've been taught to believe they are. And so as I was having this experience and I'm throat singing, I had a breakthrough where I was able to cry. You know, using my throat chakra. To a point where I was in a trance, you know, a state of just bliss, or just a state of, I'm here, but, something was coming through me, vocally, And so this particular picture in the back is basically a sort of a depiction of me expressing through my voice. Like you mentioned, humming. Your mom or your aunt used to hum. I've hummed a lot. Since that experience, I've chanted a lot. I've done a lot of throat singing since that experience, and there was like a week that went by where every time I would chant or throat sing, I would just cry. I spend time out in nature. I go to a local park trail, and when I'm out there, I do some chanting. I do some throat singing. I was actually out there this morning with a friend, and I did some throat singing and some chanting, and she actually had an emotional release. While we were sitting there looking at the water and looking at the trees and, all the trees that were cut, out there, and looking at the grass and, seeing how we're going into spring, further into spring, and spring is returning and things are restoring itself. So that's what all this is. That's what all this is about.
Okay.
Yeah,
I just thought that, it was interesting that you said it reminded you, when I brought out the bowl, that it reminded you of that particular painting.
Yeah.
So I do have a question.
I thought of sound healing when you said that.
Yeah. You said that you saw angels in, and you know what? This is like, as soon as I said that, I realized that we've had like this discussion before. This is like a deja vu moment. You've had the way that you saw the angels was not in the way that we envision angels to be. What do you think is a typical way that we envision humans? And I'm asking you that for a reason, because I'm going to give you an experience of my.
We envision, we look at white Jesus. We look at what angels may look like in a certain book, spiritual book. It's usually like some sort of Greek mythology type base looking type of character who may have white skin, that looks all like safe, that looks like something that we could approach,
Okay. The reason I asked you that is because I had my own experience with angels. I mean, like within 3-4 feet, right? And for me, it was literally like a pillar of light, just a pillar of white, bright light. And it wasn't until I want to say the arms opened, but it was just like gigantic wings that came up, and then they just shot down really fast, and that light went right up into the heavens, I'm going to say. And then another time I got into my car, and my entire back seat just like lit up, for lack of a better word. And I glanced into the rear view mirror, and all I saw were like feathers across the back, just bright and just like what looked like feathers. So that's why I asked that question, because we see with different eyes. So I wanted to see if how you envision or how you saw the angels was different to the way that I saw them. And
the way that I saw them, to the most common person or certain people would see it as demonic or evil or dark or, ungodly or whatever you want to call it, but what I saw was what I saw. I didn't shy away from what I saw, and I wasn't afraid. I just was in amazement.
And I think I like the fact that we're talking about this stuff, because to be honest, Shawn, it took me years before I spoke about the fact that I saw angels. I remember when I first saw it, within 2 or 3 days, I called the psychiatrist. And I went in and saw him. He said, "Well, why are you here?" I said, I think my mind is broken. I think I've really lost my mind this time. And at the time, I think it had been maybe 6 or 8 months that I was first diagnosed with lupus. And, they say that lupus does all of this stuff to your body. And I was going through a lot at the time. So I thought, okay, lupus has finally hit my brain and I'm really losing it this time. My mind is just like doing craziness. So I went and I'm sitting in front of this psychiatrist and I'm telling him my story, and he's just sitting there very calmly, legs crossed, kind of like handed, like, and he's just looking at me. And I'm there thinking, he must think I'm a nutcase. I'm a real nutcase. And when I was done, he looked at me, he just smiled. And I looked at him and I said, okay, you can write me the script now. What kind of medication are you going to put me on? What do I need to take? He looked at me, he said, there's nothing wrong with you. And I'll be very frank, I was shocked, because this is a psychiatrist who I just told the most incredible story to, that, I said, I saw angels. And I saw this angel in front of me, and then it opened its wings and it flew up into the air. Now, you tell any normal person that, they're going to look at you like you have lost your mind, which is what I expected him to tell me. He said, there's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah, the angels I saw didn't have wings.
But I went on, and he's,
at least they weren't showing them.
Right, and that's why I was curious as to how we envision it. But this psychiatrist, he said, no, if you want to keep coming back, come back within another month. I went to see him like a month, like every month, and then it was like every 3 months, because when you're going through an illness anyway, it helps to kind of talk to somebody, because I was in a really rough place when I was first diagnosed with lupus. But when I started seeing angels, the psychiatrist basically told me, that's God's way of saying that he's around you, that he's sending these are your guardian angels, and he's sending them to protect you. And I thought, you're a psychiatrist. You're not supposed to tell me this stuff. You're supposed to write me a script for a medication. And that was totally new for me, to have a psychiatrist tell me there's nothing wrong with your brain. What you saw is just, God's way of protecting you. Right.
If someone would, as a shamanic life coach, if somebody would have said that they had that experience, I wouldn't call them crazy.
No, but then, coming from remember, my degree is in psychology, right? I've spoken to psychiatrists, I've spoken to psychologists. So I know, coming from that background, when somebody tells you that, they're going to look in their DSMR, probably 4 or 5 now. They're going to go through that little thing, and they're going to come up with a diagnosis, and they're going to tell you, okay, this is what's wrong. This is a medication that I need to put you on, and this is how long you need to take it. Come back in 4 weeks, and we'll go from there. But so to have him tell me that was completely unexpected. Yeah.
And let's just say this at this point. I mean, you talk about angels and all these things. You're going to have a lot of people hearing this and listening to this and be like, they're on Black Digital Media talking about angels and stuff like that. No, that's not what we are. Everybody's talking about their own individual experiences. So everybody that's listening, what we're saying, do your research, take it in. We're not saying, this is the actual. Yeah, don't take
our word for it. Huh? Don't take our word for it. Do your own research.
Yeah. And that's that. We're here for education, and we're experiencing our sharing our own experiences. And I just want to say at this point that and I'm not taking anything away from what we're speaking to. We all have our experiences one way or the other. Whether we, Gina says a normal person. I don't know, quote unquote, what a normal person is. Sometimes we're all normal within our own selves. What we see is normal, but our experiences in life are our experiences in life. And we're just here, just sharing those experiences. So I just want to say at that point, the viewpoints of, opinions, expressed within the content are solely the authors and do not reflect the opinions, belief of Black Digital Media, our website, Black Digital Media, social platforms, or our affiliates. So I just want to make sure I say that. I think it's a great discussion. I'm kind of happy to see us have these kind of conversations. I think these are conversations, if people can go get acupuncture and things like that, and we listen to music to calm ourselves down at night, then there's different ways, and we're just expressing and allowing this platform to share that information, different ways to get that personal healing. Everybody, and I'm happy that you and Gina always say, hey, look, do your research, and you know what, and there's not a pill for all kind of healing and medicine. There are natural remedies, and we're just kind of expressing what those are at this time as well too. So definitely.
Yeah. And I want to encourage your audience too, who may have difficulty with as far as like the whole therapy thing. You know, look into using your EAP benefits. If you work a job, take advantage of those EAP benefits. You can get a couple free sessions with a therapist of your choice. You know, take heed and utilize that resource, because you're not, you know, you pay into it as an employee, but you don't get charged to have those sessions. You know, those are free sessions for you if you use your EAP benefits. That's what I did when I first started seeing a therapist.
Gina?
Well, I'd like to put it to say this. I think we need to get past the fear of having these discussions, the fear of what are people going to think, because I was there at one point. You know, I can't talk about my experience because then people are going to look at me this way, or I can't say this thing because, you know. So I think we need to get past this fear of what are people going to think about it, because I can almost guarantee that there's going to be somebody who's going to come on or send me a message that says, you know, I had this particular experience and I'm so glad to hear you talk about it, because we need to get to a point where when people have spiritual experiences like this, where we don't look at them like they're a nutcase, because everybody has some form of spiritual experience on a daily basis. I mean, you do. You may not necessarily, it may not necessarily be this mind-blowing thing like seeing an angel in front of you, but we do. But we need to get to a point where these discussions are happening normally, that we're not looking at them, because the thing is, if you come from a Christian background, which I do, which I know Laron does, these are things that are talked about in the Bible all the time.
I do as well.
So, I mean, how can we not have these discussions or be afraid to have these discussions about seeing angels or talking about angels? And I understand from certain standpoints why you don't want to, but these are discussions that need to be had, because I think we're at a point. I mean, after the last year, you know, there are people who've had experiences that they just don't understand. Why was that happening? Right? So we need to get to a point where we can talk about these things. And I'm going to say this now, if there's anybody watching or watch it on the replay and you come up with questions and you want to know more, I'm connected with Shawn on Facebook. You can message Shawn. You can message me. I also have other platforms where you can send me a message. Please feel free to reach out, because the thing is, when I started having these experiences, I found people that could help me. I didn't, quote unquote, suffer in silence, or, you know, just overthink all of this stuff. Find people who are going to help. Now, if that means going to a therapist, please go to a therapist. If you need to find yourself a shamanic coach, go and find one. Go to your pastor, whatever the case is. But feel free to reach out, because we need to make these type of discussions. We need to make them something that happens normally, because I think that's where we need to take the mystery out of it. That's what I think
that's the great thing, Gina. I think that's a great thing about the Clubhouse platform, because it's allowed people to be able to have those unusual conversations or those uncomfortable conversations that you normally wouldn't have with people. Like when I got into doing high doses of mushrooms, it was hard for me to talk to people, because I knew that a lot of people weren't going to understand what it was that I was experiencing and what I saw, what I experienced. And it wasn't until gradually over the year, I started connecting with people that were having similar experiences. And then before I knew it, Clubhouse happened. And then when I'm on Clubhouse, there are tons of people just like me that are very unique, that are having similar experiences like you and I, or that have had experiences for many years, and then they were like they didn't have people to go to talk to about these experiences because they were afraid that they would be looked at as a certain way. And now we have these platforms to open the conversation, you know, of these experiences, of these medicines, of these therapies, you know, the uncomfortable stuff, you know, the stuff that, you know, you like, you know, if you went to your regular family, your immediate family, they look at you, they will look at you like you're crazy. Because of what, you know, a lot of our experiences in relationships, a lot of our experiences with people are very fixed. You know, we have people in our lives, a lot of people in our lives who are not open to discovery. They haven't stepped outside of that box. Like, you know, they're still coloring in the lines. You know what I'm saying? So there are people, like you said, that probably feel that way, and then there are people that are getting together and having these conversations.
Yeah, you'll have a lot of people out there like me, just hearing about this stuff.
There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people like you as well. They want to understand. They want to see. Right. You know, they may have some hindrances or whatever like that, and that's fine. But yeah, there are people that are having these dialogues to try to understand, and you know, they come to realization that they thought they were crazy, but they're really not.
Yeah, but is that a good word to use, that people think they're crazy or go to the doctor? Gina says, now you want to give me some medicine. You know, are you thinking I'm like not, you know, I'm out of my mind? Is that a good word to you, that people think they're crazy? I mean, you know, maybe
when you have an experience like that, that's one of the first things that come to mind. It's like, am I crazy? You know?
That's true.
Because I literally said, I told my doctor, I think I've lost my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I told my doctor that I think I have lost my mind, because
when you think about it,
because
when you think about it, Laron, you're letting go of your cognitive dissonance in these experiences. You're surrendering to something that is foreign to you,
right?
And you're still trying to hold on to your cognitive dissonance, or what it was that you were brought up to believe.
Yes.
So when you have these, you're like, damn, like, really, I'm tripping. Like, this didn't happen. You know, and then you get all the confirmations in the world as you progress and grow. You get all the confirmations in the world through people, through what you learn, what you read. You know, when you sleep at night, you know, with whatever, you know, depending on what you turn on the TV to watch, you know, the synchronicities come through like you won't believe when you first go through that door of the experiences that we've had. It starts to make more sense, you know.
And I'll say this today's show, because we're almost at about 2 hours, but you know, when we met, I think we had a discussion for 3 hours.
Jeez.
It's just so funny that we talk about so many things in life.
Yeah.
So many things that's going on in our world today, within our family. But it's amazing how we have this discussion, and before you know it, you know, time has gone so far. But how far do you go? I mean, it's just very interesting that this is a very interesting topic. Maybe that's a sign that these are topics that need to be talked about more. But, you know, who do you talk to? How do you bring these things out? Do I mention these things and people think I'm crazy, like Gina says? Am I normal? You know, but at least, you know, like you talk about Clubhouse and a platform, at least we begin to have the discussion. So, you know, talk these things out. Not that we're pushing these things, but I think this is definitely a platform where we can use it as an educational piece, and people can discuss these things. And then afterwards, do your research, consult your physician, your therapist. And if you're taking any medicine, don't change, don't stop. Whatever you hear, say, hey, I heard this. Is this right? But I like what you said, even in Clubhouse, you have doctors talking about this stuff. And so maybe people don't know that. They don't know that, you know, these people are not on here talking crazy. No, there's doctors and people who are professional people who've written books because they do these things and think of these things and understand these things, frequency, artists, things like that. All this stuff goes together. So definitely.
Right. And to bring it to a technical perspective, because I know that you're a tech guy, Laron, these are just different technologies that have been utilized for centuries. And there's some of them are looked at as being ancient technologies, but it's like, to me, they're not ancient. Yes, they've been around a while. We've utilized them, but they're just different forms of technology. I mean, the tuning fork has been. I've heard about the tuning fork for as long as I can remember. You know, people have used sound. We've heard about people. You know, the Native Americans especially. You know, they'll get around. They have a fire and they're doing their little powwow and they have their rattles going and they're beating their drums. I mean, it's music. It's sound. Right?
Yeah.
And that sound is creating certain vibrations within the body. They also burn certain plants. But I mean, these are just technologies that have been utilized for a very long time, and that we need to get back.
When you look at the technological advances that we've seen throughout history, you know, things like the pyramids and things that we just can't explain how they were built, or, you know, certain systems that were created, martial arts, you know, all of these things come through psilocybin. They all come through the mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they were all inspired, you know, through the information that the people that dealt with those medicines, it came through that.
But Shawn, you mentioned martial arts. How does that tie in?
I'm saying through the mushrooms, you know, I'm gonna tell your listeners right now, look up Kilindi. That's the first name, Kilindi, last name Eyyi. Tons of lectures on what we're talking about as far as mushrooms, but he goes in further in regards to what has come through the mushrooms, through psilocybin, things that we see today that historically we've always wondered about. You know, how was this built? How was this created? Where did this come from? You know, a lot of the stuff that we see today came through that medicine.
So
you mentioned martial arts, Gina. You have a background in martial arts. Do you see how does this tie in?
Well, because I've done my research, yes, there are people, and you know that we have all of these different forms of martial arts, but a lot of the newer forms of martial arts, they're people who have gone into ceremony with these particular plant medicines and have received downloads, and that's, you know, just sticking to a technical term, they've received downloads related to a particular form or style of martial art that they needed to develop, and they developed that and started to teach it to people. A lot of different forms of martial arts have come through from someone who sat in ceremony with a particular plant medicine.
So Gina, what level of martial arts are you?
The 2nd degree black belt in Taekwondo.
Hey, there you go. And yes. But so as when you talk about that from, you know, as a degree of black belt in martial arts, do they speak to these things in those particular classes, or do they come out, or no?
No, well, you don't speak to it as to development through plant medicine, but there is, at least the particular style that I did, there was I'm going to use that word again, there was a reverence for the trees, and every particular level of belt that we achieved, there was a certain height or size of the tree that we could compare it to, like the pine tree. You know, when it starts out, it's just this tiny little thing, and it's being overshadowed by all of these giant trees that are in the rest of the forest. And basically, in comparison to the white belt, you're a white belt, you don't know anything, you're just starting out, and you're overshadowed by all of these other black belts that are around. But as you as the tree gets bigger, and you know, tree gets bigger, we get further up in as far as the colors of belts. Then there is a correspondence with both the color as well as the size of the tree until you get to be a mature pine tree. And then at that point, usually about that point, we're just getting into like brown, black, or we've achieved black belt, which means that we're now a mature tree. But the thing is, when you get to that level, that's where the work really begins. Is when you get to a black belt level. You've achieved the black belt, but that's where you suddenly just haven't made it. That's where the work really begins. But there is that it does teach you the reverence for the particular tree and the level that you get to. There is a correspondence. So,
and I just wanted to say that and bring that out. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Shawn.
No, I was just thinking and I'm sure that there's a level of consciousness that's applied to each level that you go.
Yes. Yeah.
With that tree.
And I fully believe that's one of the things that also helped me with my healing, because with martial arts, there's also a lot of movement involved, and there's intentional movement. You don't just move. There's a reason why your hands are placed in certain positions, why your feet are placed in certain positions. There is a meaning behind all of the moves that you make. So it's very intentional. And I think that also had a lot to do. And I've written an article about this, how martial arts helped me with my healing and my journey with chronic illness. So there is, there is something to using martial arts, whether it's karate, taekwondo, tai chi, qigong, all of those, whichever one resonates with you, try that. There's so many free videos on YouTube that you can try. It's all about moving the body, right? And moving the body in very intentional ways to get certain energies flowing the right way. Because like I said, everything is energy. If you go back to, is it Einstein who said that? Everything is energy.
And I just wanted to bring that part out, Gina, for you to kind of touch on that, because I just want our viewers to know one thing about Gina. I've known her for many years. I just met Shawn. It's just kind of interesting to see these two talk, how they, kind of, I call it cross-pollinate, because they come together in a very unique way in the conversation. But Gina definitely has a history and her background. She talks about Shawn Briggs. He mentions martial arts. Gina she's a 2-time black belt, right? Is it black belt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, but Gina is definitely passionate. She's very passionate when she gets into something. So I just wanted her to kind of mention that, so that, just kind of understand that about Gina. And when she talks about these medicines and things like that, she's done her work. She's certified in a lot of different ways, or in different ways as well too. So if you have any questions, definitely reach out to Gina, reach out to Shawn. Hey, if you like me, you can send it to blackdigitalmediatv@gmail.com. I'll just pass it to either one of those two. And that's how we'll get that out to you as well too. But definitely to those that's listening, please like, please share, please subscribe, tune in. That's what this platform is about, to bring people on like Shawn, who knows their expertise. We're just another digital platform that speaks to our community. He already has his platforms. We just want to be an added platform that we share. But we just believe the way we grow as a community is we share each other's platform, we build each other up, and we just want to be that example to everyone that's watching. So definitely we'll be reaching out to a lot more people to come on as well too, and we're excited. We got a lot of things coming for Black Digital Media TV. A lot of people don't know what's going on, but a lot of things are going on behind the scene, and you're going to like what you see for Black Digital Media TV. So definitely to all of our participants that's come on before, we'll be asking you all back. I think we were planning to have maybe like, what do we call it? Like a summit, a summit for all of our participants to come on. We got a lot of good things coming. So Shawn, you'll be back for that for sure as well too, right? You'll join us on that one?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Shawn, you know you can't say no.
Yeah, you're on camera now, so you can't say no.
I think we've literally only reached just a bit of what we could actually discuss with Shawn. I mean, we've gone through a lot, but I think there's a few other topics that we could bring you on for, and we're going to talk about that. One of the things that I wanted to mention, and I don't know if I mentioned this to Shawn, was I'm also a certified art therapy life coach. So that intrigues me as to the way that your art comes about from your experiences. So.
Okay.
But thank you again so much for accepting this second invitation. We had to have a part 2.
Thank you.
Who knows, maybe there'll be a part 3.
Thank you.
Because it's
Thank you.
always a joy. I always learn so much whenever you come on,
Yeah.
and I know these are topics that are not usual, but we want to make sure that they are. And
Yeah.
can you let the viewers know where they can reach you again?
Yes.
They can reach me on Facebook. My name is Shawn Belton. They can reach me on Instagram. I am Shawn Belton. The _ Dream Sketcher. And then I have another page called The Negotiator's Door. They can reach me on Clubhouse. My username is Shawnee. That is spelled SHAWNEE, and then the number 9. So that's Shawnee9, and so those are the ways in which you can reach me. You know, DM me or ping me or whatever you wanna ping me on Clubhouse and talk to me in a room. Feel free.
Thank you so much again for being on. We talked about this being an hour, of course, 2 hours later. That's
yeah, it happens.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank you,
again,
guys.
Shawn. Thank you.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
All right. Take care.
Take care.